Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Swastika, and let me first of all, straight off the bat, just apologize for the bad video quality, but that is because I just have an old laptop and I think you just have to go by the Indian jugaad method of just figuring out things and going with them. So, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to discuss the short notes from July 1st to July 12th, 2020, and this is presented to you by me. So, I have done my master's in political science from Jawaharlal Nehru University, as most of you probably know by now, and I have done my BA honors in political science from Delhi University. If you like my content, then please press the subscribe button. That will be great of you. And without wasting any more time, let's move on to the crux of the matter, which is analyzing the PIBs. So in this, what I've done basically is that from 1st July to 12th July, some of the things I've already discussed in my current affairs, the current affairs that I keep putting up on my channel. Whatever's been left out, I have tried to compile it into a small video which you are seeing right now, and the small compilation of PIB would completely cover all the current affairs that have been going on from the 1st of July to the 12th of July. In case you think I have missed something, I would request you to please comment down below that this is something I have missed. So let's move on. So in the Prime Minister's office, the first thing that we are going to start off is the Prime Minister's office. So the Prime Minister has said that the International Solar Alliance was launched with the motive to unite the entire world in terms of solar energy. He said that the spirit behind it was one world, one sun, one grid. So every time Narendra Modi takes the stage, we know it's going to be one of something, because that is honestly the acronym for most of his, sloganeering. Anyway, moving on. The Prime Minister has also expressed confidence that Madhya Pradesh's farmers will also make use of government's Kusum program and will install solar energy plants in their lands as an additional source of income. So you might wonder what this is in the context of. This is in context of Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently inaugurating a solar alliance in Rewa in Madhya Pradesh, and it's one of its kind because it's the biggest, and it will not only power Madhya Pradesh but it will also go on to power New Delhi. Okay, wait, I missed the point. Similarly, through the PM Swanidhi scheme, those who have the least access to the system get benefited. So PM inaugurates the India Global Week 10th July. In this, I will discuss some short points that have been raised, and so let's begin. India is playing, that basically Narendra Modi said in his speech. So he starts off by saying that India is playing a leading role in the global revival. He said that this is closely linked to two factors. First is the Indian talent, and second is India's ability to reform and rejuvenate. He elaborated that world over the contribution of India's talent force is highly recognized, especially the contribution of the Indian tech industry with tech professionals. So in this we have to remember that India is extremely talented in terms of the kind of technical professionals that we produce from our country, and they go to different countries abroad and then they sort of develop software for them. So India is pretty good at this and we are pretty talented, and he has mentioned this in his speech while inaugurating India Global Week on 10th July. So he said that when India talks of revival, it is revival with care, revival with compassion, revival which is sustainable both for the environment and the economy. So he is basically saying that India is going to, तो ये revival किस चीज से हम link कर रहे हैं? जो revival ये बार बार बात आ रही है, it's basically talking about the post-COVID world, how and what role India is going to play in the world that is going to be shaped post the pandemic. right? So he's saying that our revival is not only going to be sustainable for the environment but also for the economy. So he's saying that the debate that has existed for ages between whether to pick the economy or the environment is not really relevant to India, because we will take care of both the aspects when we move forward. He described various reforms initiated in agriculture sector and said that it provides a very attractive investment opportunity for the global industry. So when I was going through this document, I also read that he said that India is very open to new businesses. We are going to be extremely open and welcoming to companies who want to come and invest in us. And he said that the agriculture sector, so this is sort of important, is very attractive investment opportunity for the global industry. So if you are following my current affairs, you would know that we discussed a little about foreign direct investment, and we talked about how India has a digital sector which is one of its kind, because our demographic dividend is pretty young. So this implies that when India increasingly gets digitized, a lot of young people would jump into the ship. So this means that the tech industry would actually can lure this to their advantage, and this can be mutually beneficial for them, for the foreign countries that invest, as well as for us. So in this sense, revival would be eminent. The Prime Minister further said that the latest reforms are providing a boost to the MSME sector and that they would be complementing the big industry. He said that there are investment opportunities in the defense sector, and expressed happiness that the forum was also marking the 100th birth anniversary of Pandit Ravi Shankar, who took the beauty of Indian classical music to the world sector. So this is some of the things. So in the cabinet, this is cabinet, basically Shri Narendra Modi had given their approval for developing of affordable renting housing complex. I don't know why I find this piece of news to be very important, because of all the labor distress that we have seen in the news happening for the last couple of weeks, and most of it is happening because of poor implementation of the lockdown and all of that. So I feel that this is super important, because if this gets implemented, I feel that the labor which who have been in distress since the pandemic, especially the urban labor, it would be a huge relief to them. So affordable renting housing complexes for urban migrants and poor, a sub-scheme under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, PMAY. So this AHRC, which is Affordable Renting Housing Complex, basically comes under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and this says that the existing vacant government-funded housing complexes will be converted in ARHCs through concession agreements for 25 years. Concessionaire will make the complexes livable by repair, retrofit, and maintenance of rooms and filling up infrastructure gaps like water, sewers, sanitation, road, etc. States and union territories will select concessionaire through transparent bidding. Complexes will revert to ULB after 25 years. Special incentives to use permission, 50% additional concessional loan would be given. An expenditure of 600 crore is estimated in the form of technology innovation grant, which will be released for projects using identified innovative technologies for the construction. Approximately 3 lakh beneficiaries will be covered initially under ARHC. So I really hope that this scheme comes to fruit, and the entire distress, the labor distress that is being covered by news, and we are seeing as soon as we step out into the highways, into the streets, and the condition that we see labor in, I hope that quickly gets elevated. So the next thing we are going to discuss is the Finance Commission. So if you would remember in the previous current affairs when we went through it, like the last week, we discussed a couple of things on the Finance Commission. We talked about cooperative federalism and how the central government is basically failing the state government by not providing enough funds. I think that article was by Derek O'Brien. And the second thing that we had discussed when we were discussing the current affairs was do we need a fiscal council? And I thought that article was very relevant because a fiscal council would be an independent body. So basically, let's move on. I was just trying to link things with current affairs so that it would be easier for people to understand. So the Finance Commission, the 15th Finance Commission, holds meetings with the World Bank and HLG, which is High Level Group on Health Sector, for the first time. So this is important because the 15th Finance Commission for the first time held a meeting with World Bank and its high level group on the health sector. So they basically want to devote an entire chapter to health financing, and I think this is very relevant because this has never been done before. Right. So the chairman of the 15th Finance Commission, as we had already discussed, is N.K. Singh, Shri N.K. Singh. So you try remembering that because it's important. And the World Bank was represented by Dr. Junaid Ahmad, who is the country director, and Dr. Indu Bhushan, who is the CEO. Ayushman Bharat also took part in the meeting. So these are some of the important names. So the important things, some random facts that you can probably remember. I saw it there, so I was like, let's just pick it and throw it around. So World Bank has recently successfully concluded a 20-year-long partnership with Government of India in the area of HIV. He stated that the states in India are going to be the anchor in implementation of health programs. As states are so different from each other, the solutions for them will be custom made. So we understand that in India we have a huge diversity. You can travel a couple of miles and you would come across people who belong to a completely different way of thinking, and so there is a lot of diversity within the next couple of miles. So the same solution cannot be uniformly applied in homogeneity throughout the country, right? So because we are a very heterogeneous culture, so that was the point he was trying to make, and he goes on by saying that health was not a social expenditure but also important for economic growth and development of the country. In this regard, he felt that the Finance Commission may like to look at health in three different ways: grants to enhance per capita spending, block grant for capacity building, and a performance incentive for certain health outcomes. Similarly, in context of health, a pivotal role may be played by local bodies. Also, more than 60% of health demand in India is supplied by private sector. Leveraging private clinics along with DPT may be used as tools to increase engagement with private sector. Importance of non-communicable diseases cannot be undermined. Another area that needs focus is infectious disease program like tuberculosis. It may be recalled that India COVID-19 emergency response and health system preparedness package was approved by cabinet on 22nd April 2020 for rupees 15,000 crore. Right. So you don't have to. I mean, you have to remember the exact numbers. I feel like just keep it in mind. 15,000 crore रुपए जो था वो अप्रूव हुआ था, कैबिनेट ने अप्रूव करा था 22nd April 2020 को एज एन इमरजेंसी रिस्पॉन्स. So moving on, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs and Food and Public Distribution. So states or UTs can complete distribution of remaining food grains and whole gram allocated under Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme by 31st August 2020. So in this case, if you go back again to my current affairs that I've been discussing for the last 14 days, you would see that I have extensively covered Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana and Atmanirbhar Bharat package scheme, because both of them extensively refer to feeding and giving free food grains to people. Right. So when we talk about Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, the difference between the two is that Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana sort of excludes people who don't have ration cards. Whereas ANBA, I'm just going to use the short term, get used to it, I guess. So whereas ANBA basically does not exclude people who don't have ration cards, it includes all workers, migrants, non-migrants, everyone. Right. So whereas the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana was extended till the end of November. The Atmanirbhar Bharat package has only been extended till 31st August 2020. Under this ANBP, 5 kg of free food grains per person and 1 kg of free whole gram per family has been distributed to migrant laborers, stranded and needy families who are not covered under NFSA or state schemes, PTS cards. So this essentially is for people who don't have ration cards, who are not covered under any other scheme. So this is for everyone. Free food grains for everyone. Ministry is trying to go on board all remaining states and union territories for one nation, one ration card by January 2020. This has been said by Sri Ramvilas Paswan. So guys, I have extensively discussed these two schemes, and if you want more reference, I would recommend you go back to my current affairs and go through that. वैसे तो I think made it clear. So moving on, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. The Union Cabinet chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi today has given its approval to a new pan-India central scheme, Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. So this is something new. I didn't actually find it in the newspaper anywhere, and I was pretty happy when I came across this in BIB. I was like, finally we find something. Okay, anyway, so this is Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. It's a pan-India central sector scheme. So this scheme shall provide a medium long-term debt financing facility for investment in viable projects for post-harvest management, infrastructure and community farming assets through interest, subvention and financial support. The project, by way of facilitating formal credit to farm and farm processing based activities, is expected to create numerous job opportunities in rural areas. Under the scheme, 1 lakh crore will be provided by banks and financial institutions as loans to primary agricultural credit societies, PACs, marketing cooperative societies, farmers produce organizations, self-help groups, joint liability groups, multi-purpose cooperative societies, agri-entrepreneurs, startups, aggregation infrastructure providers, so on and so forth. Loans will be disbursed in 4 years, starting with a sanction of rupees 10,000, 10,000 crore in the current year and 30,000 crore each in the next 3 financial years. The total outflow as budgetary support from Government of India will be 10,736 crores. So you can just keep that in mind. It's basically a financing facility for investment in projects for post-harvest management, right? So Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, that's the word for it. Moving on, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. To assist government in its effort to combat COVID, Rashtra Chemicals and Fertilizers Limited, a PSU under Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, has introduced a hand cleansing IPA gel RCF Safarola. RCF, okay, so I picked this up not because I found RCF Safarola that is like important, but I just found RCF to be important because it's a mini Ratna and it's a leading producer of fertilizers and chemicals in the country. It manufactures urea, complex fertilizers, biofertilizers, micronutrients, water-soluble fertilizers, soil conditioners, and a wide range of industrial chemicals. The company is a household name in rural India with brands Ujjwala, Urea, and Sufala complex fertilizers, which carry high brand equity. Besides fertilizer products, RCF also produces a large number of industrial chemicals that are important for the manufacture of dyes, solvents, leather, pharmaceuticals, and a host of other industrial products. So with this, you have to keep in mind that RCF is a Mini Ratna company, and it's a leading producer of fertilizers and chemicals in India, and it produces a lot of our urea, Sapola, and all those things. Okay, so Ministry of Defence. Shri Rajnath Singh inaugurates 6 strategic bridges in Jammu and Kashmir. Also, I was happy when I saw this news because I was like, finally, we're getting in some new information that I haven't like read in the newspaper already. This is again new information. I couldn't find this anywhere in the newspaper. So he basically inaugurates 6 strategic bridges in Jammu and Kashmir. It is to be completed by Border Roads Organization. Two bridges are located on Tadnaha Nala in Kathua district, and four bridges are located on Akhnur Palanwala Road in Akhnur, Jammu district, and have spans ranging from 30 to 300 meters and were constructed at a total cost of 43 crores. Right. So basically, we are building these bridges obviously to counter China, and they are going to be strategically built in the sense that they are going to be built along the border, and they are going to be completed by the Border Roads Organization. The two bridges that are being built are in Tarna, Nala and Kathua district, and four are going to be located in Akhnur Palanwala Road. The total cost is coming around 43 crore, and these bridges are constructed by Project Sampark of the BRO, will facilitate movement of armed forces in this strategically important sector, and will also promote towards overall economic growth of remote border areas. This is happening. Moving on, the Ministry of Environment, Forecast and Climate Change. Oh, this news was in today's newspaper, I remember, and this basically says that India's tiger census sets a new Guinness record for being the world's largest camera trap wildlife sanctuary. Sorry, survey. So this basically means कि इंडिया के पास जो है हमने एक नया रिकॉर्ड सेट कर लिया, बिकॉज हमने बहुत इतने सारे कैमराज लगाए कि उससे ज्यादा कैमराज किसी और ने लगाए नहीं है टाइगर सर्वे के लिए. सो आई मीन इट्स फनी. Right. So Shri Prakash Javadekar in a tweet message said that this is a shining example of Atmanirbhar Bharat, which in the Prime Minister's own words was attained through Sankalp Ki Siddhi. Okay. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, India has fulfilled its resolve to double the tiger numbers 4 years before the target. The country now has an estimated 2967 tigers as per the latest census. With this number, India is home to nearly 75% of the global tiger population and has already fulfilled its resolve of doubling the numbers made at St. Petersburg in 2010, much before the target for 2022. I don't remember how many of you remember that there was a point of time when we were running out of tigers in the country. I mean, but that has completely changed because we see that the country now has an estimated of 2967 tigers, and that is, we are home to nearly 75% of the global tiger population, which is a big win for us. It's a big win, yeah. So, Ministry of Finance. Finance Minister holds review meeting on capex of 23 CPSEs to boost expenditure in the economy. So, I just found it important because I thought that you should know what a CPSE is. So, these are companies in which the direct holding of the central government or other CPSEs is 51% or more. They are administered by the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Right. Okay. Cool. So basically, companies which have where the direct holding of the central government is more than 51% is a CPSE. Okay, moving on, the World Bank has provides $400 million to enhance support for renovating Ganga. The World Bank and the Government of India today signed a loan agreement to enhance support for the Namami Ganga program that seeks to rejuvenate the Ganga River. The second National Ganga River Basin project will help stem pollution in the iconic river and strengthen the management of the river basin, which is home to more than 500 million people. So the World Bank is basically providing us with loans for the rejuvenating the Ganga project, and they're giving us $400 million, and this project will basically help us build infrastructure and institutions that are needed to make Ganga a clean and a healthy river. We know we've had many problems there because of how polluted that river was getting, and so World Bank is providing us with 400 million in loans. And this is in support of the Namami Ganga program. This you also have to, I think, remember. Okay, the sprawling Ganga basin provides over 1/3 of India's surface water, includes the country's largest irrigated area, and is key to India's water and food security. Over 40% of India's GDP is generated in the densely populated basin. But the Ganga River is facing pressures from human and economic activity that impact its quality and flows. So this is true because a lot of economic activity happens there, and a lot of and it's basically home to 40% of India's GDP, which means that it's very densely populated. And obviously, if there is a space that is densely populated, a lot of humans are there. They are going to pollute it. They are going to sabotage it. So it's necessary that we take care of our environment, and for that the World Bank is giving us $400 million in loan, and this is really nice because this hopefully we will make improvements here. Over 80% of the pollution load in the Ganga comes from untreated domestic wastewater from towns and cities along the river and its tributaries. So this is also very true. Like we have such a bad wastewater management in this country, and a lot of the pollution and a lot of the sewage that comes from like domestic households just gets dumped into the river, which means that if the area is densely populated, a lot of the dump actually goes into the river, which means that it's going to get dirty, it's going to get polluted, and that's bad. So, ongoing National River Basin, Ganga River Basin project right now has helped set up the National Mission for Clean Ganga, is helping build sewage collection and treatment infrastructure in 20 towns along with mainstream of the Ganga. 1275 MLE sewage treatment capacity created, 362 kilometers of sewage network built, has helped to foster public mobilization for Ganga rejuvenation. So you can just keep that in mind. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Dr. Harsh Vardhan emphasized on family planning as a human rights issue on the World Population Day and lauds its inclusion as an essential non-COVID service. So basically, World Population Day is celebrated on 11th July. I think that was yesterday, yeah. And the United Nations Development Program recommended that the introduction of World Population Day in 1989 was inspired by public interest and awareness that was created by 5 billion day on July 11th, 1981, when the world's population reached 5 billion. Dr. Harshvardhan also said that India is a fundamental part of the global FP 2020 movement. The government of India has invested substantial domestic funding to achieve ambitious FP 2020 goals. So this is very important in the Indian context because we are the second most largest populated country. We have a huge population, and I think Prime Minister Narendra Modi makes it a point to mention it in all his speeches. After China, we are the second most populated country, and it's okay. So further on, the use of contraceptives has helped about 5.5 crore unintended pregnancies, 1.1 crore total births, 18 lakh unsafe abortions, and 30,000 maternal deaths in 2019 alone. The Health Minister has also released the AVHWC mobile application developed by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. This app is designed to streamline the process of data reporting and AV Health and Wellness Centers. So obviously we need to do something about the exploding population. We need to have better family planning measures. So this is basically related to this. That so Dr. Harshvardhan is basically saying that we are going to have better family planning as a human rights issue. And I think what's important here to remember is that World Population Day is on 11th July. More than 41,000 of Ayushman Bharat health and wellness centers provide universal and comprehensive primary healthcare, especially during COVID-19. The health and wellness sectors form the primary pillar of Ayushman Bharat, envisaging the provisioning of universal and comprehensive primary healthcare through the transformation of 150,000 sub-health centers and primary health centers into HWCs by 2022. 8.8 crore footfalls recorded at HWCs in the last 5 months. In Jharkhand, as a part of the statewide and intensive public health survey, HWC screened people for influenza-like illness and severe acute respiratory illness. Similarly, there was a team in Odisha. There was also a team in Rajasthan. So we basically can skip this, I feel. Okay, Ashas in Rajasthan. So there is selfless commitment to people in the long fight against COVID-19. In Rajasthan, the COVID-19 pandemic coincided with the harvest season. Yet most of the ashas are also expected by the families in supporting harvesting activities. So ashas are basically providing good primary health care, especially in the COVID-19 pandemic, where they have acted as integral pillars of COVID-19 response, and they started immediately after the first case was diagnosed in early March this year in Jaipur. So this has been in news for quite some time, and I have covered this in my current affairs, especially the high number of women ASHA workers who are working and toiling from throughout the night, throughout the day, and yet are not getting paid enough. So this has been a problem, and this has been covered in the current affairs. The fact that they're not getting paid despite working all day, all night. Right, moving on. So, Ministry of Development of Northeast Region says that the bamboo sector will be one of the most important components of India's post-COVID economy, as said by Dr. Jitendra Singh. Bamboo is to propel the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan in the northeastern region by imbibing vocal for local mantra. So he's saying basically the bamboo sector will propel and be an important component of the post-COVID economy. And he lamented that despite India being the second largest producer of bamboo and cane in the world, its share is only 5% in global scale, in global trade. So this basically reminds me of a certain conundrum which seems to exist, which basically is that the places that have the most number of resources are actually the poorest. And this seems to be the case because India is the second largest producer of bamboo and cane in the world, and its share is only 5% in global trade. So the mantra is create, curate, and coordinate. Moving on, I think we skipped. Yeah, okay. So Ministry of Jal Shakti. This again I have discussed in the current affairs. Garib Kalyan Rozgar Yojana has been launched on 2/6/2020. This is to start an extensive public works to provide livelihood opportunities and create local employment to returning migrants and similarly affected citizens. This time-bound campaign is spanning over 125 days, and it is going to involve intensive and focused implementation in 116 districts, including 27 aspirational districts spread in 6 states in Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh. As part of this Abhiyan, Jal Jeevan Mission aims at providing household tap connections to every rural household and offers a huge opportunity to engage skilled, semi-skilled and migrant returnees in drinking water supply related works. States have been requested to start works in villages and these districts so that it will not only help to ensure adequate quantity of water but also in providing employment to migrant returnees. So basically this program is trying to provide tap connections to households, and it aims to ensure that every rural household has the opportunity to engage in skilled, semi-skilled and labor, and that migrants who are returning back to the state will get some drinking water related work. So he's saying that not only will this generate employment, but we are also going to be, by generating employment, we are also going to be in a position to provide tap connections to every rural household in the country. So it's a very ambitious campaign, and it basically they want every house to become Har Jal Gaon, that is 100% functional household tap connection villages. So this basically means that every village will have a functional household tap connection, and it's a very ambitious campaign that will not only improve the lives of rural people by providing household tap connections through the implementation of Jal Jeevan Mission, but will also create rural employment and the rural economy. So basically this is for the migrants who are returning, this is also for semi-skilled people, this is for skilled laborers who are looking for jobs, and so this will create and generate an income and employment of sorts, and this will also provide tap connections, 100% tap connections to all the households. I have discussed this in the current affairs, it was there in the newspaper, I went through it. I know I discussed it. Okay, so in the next one we have the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So they have basically launched a new artificial intelligence based app, right? So this is an Atmanirbhar skilled employer mapping digital platform to build demand supply gap of skilled workforce across sectors. I actually found this pretty interesting because they're sort of trying to build a digital platform that will create an equilibrium of the demand and the supply of workforce across all sectors. And I think that's pretty interesting, and I think that's a very good idea. And so this app is called Aseem. This digital platform is called Aseem, and this is basically to help skilled people find sustainable livelihood opportunities. So it's basically like Naukri.com, right? But it's a government approved scheme, and apart from recruiting a skilled workforce that spurs business competitiveness and economic growth, the artificial intelligence based platform has been envisioned to strengthen their career pathways by handholding them through their journeys to attain industry relevant skills and explore emerging job opportunities, especially in the post COVID era. Aseem will be used as a matchmaking engine to map skilled workers with the jobs available, and this portal will map details of workers based on regions and local industry demands. The database of labor migrants in Indian states and overseas citizens who return to India under the Vande Bharat mission and filled Swadesh Skill Card has been integrated with the Aseem portal. I actually applaud this because I think that there is a big gap that needs to be met between the demand of jobs and skilled labor and the very limited supply that we have. And if we could actually work on a digital platform that sort of creates an equilibrium between both the sides, that would be amazing because we see the number of unemployed people. Ministry of Science and Technology basically came up with Steve Voice site STE. So this has basically been isolated from the leaves of honey yerba and widely used as a non-caloric natural sweetener. Researchers at the Institute of Nanoscience and Technology and Autonomous Institute of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, in their recent study have found the stevioside, a natural plant-based glycoside found in leaves on honey yerba, when coated on nanoparticles, can increase the efficiency of magnetic hypothermia mediated cancer therapy. So basically, it's widely used as a non-caloric natural sweetener, and it has positive effects for increasing the efficiency of magnetic hypothermia mediated cancer therapy. So MHCT method of cancer therapy is based on heating the tumor tissues using magnetic nanoparticles in comparison to the routinely based surfactant moieties, and is based on generation of localized heat at the tumor site on exposure to EMF in the presence of magnetic nanoparticles. Okay, cool. So if you get that, that's amazing. High-level industry consultation roundtable for the formulation of new science, technology, and innovation policy STIP 2020 will be organized during 2nd to 3rd July 2020 over a virtual platform by the STIP 2020 Secretariat. And the top leaders are going to be there, were there from Forbes, Marshall, Bharat, and Infosys, and all these companies. This is the first ever high-level industry consultation for the formulation of a science, technology, and innovation policy, which by way of its decentralized, bottom-up, and inclusive design process aims to re-strategize priorities, sectoral focus, and methods of research and technology development for larger socioeconomic welfare. So, guys, if you like my content, so this was us basically just discussing what's going on in the I think, and a lot of it I have already covered in the current affairs, but I think whatever we missed has been covered today by the deep analytical coverage of the PIB from 1st to 12th July, and I hope you like my content. in the case you do, it'll be great if you could press the subscribe button and like and comment your doubts down below. I will individually respond to everyone, and I will basically go through whatever. And in case you feel that I've missed out on something, that'll be great. Please mention it down in the comments below. Thank you.